This video is for the people who have an interest in Altuve, who have an interest in what I say, have an interest in baseball. If you don't like the subject, please change the channel. I'm not frustrated at all. I just don't get the logic in why you would listen to a channel where you don't like what's being said. So, logically, once again, I'm going to talk about the Altuve buzzer and two reasons, additionally, why I think he didn't do it. And once again, if you think I'm beating a dead horse, then please change the channel before I even start. I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. Change the channel. And, I'm ready for anything. I changed the channel, so let's go ahead and get started. I gave you guys enough time. Please change the channel one more time. I'm not frustrated. I'm just sharing. Love you guys. If you guys, don't like it, just move on to your Yankees channel, your Dodgers channel, whatever. It's all good. But here's two reasons that Altuve was not wearing a buzzer. Number one, the scandal about the buzzer came out after the playoffs and the World Series were over. So if Altuve logically were using a buzzer in Game 6 of the ALCS, don't you think he would have continued to use that buzzer in the World Series, especially Game 7 of the World Series at home? So if you look at the score here, we didn't do very well. And if you look at the game before, let's go ahead and look at that. We didn't do very well. So it's kind of self-evident that nothing was going on. So if the Astros were cheating in 2019, do you think we would have lost Game 6 and 7 at home of the World Series? Of course not. So this proves. So there's point one. This proves. My point two I'll get to in just a second, but I want to talk about using anecdotal evidence versus big picture first. And so anecdotal evidence is when you take like little snippets and use that as your evidence to form an argument. And so I want to talk about using home and away stats for the basis of your argument. So I don't believe that using home and away stats is actually a very good philosophy. Because if you look here, I just think it's always better to look big picture. For example, the Washington Nationals in the World Series, I believe, scored 30 runs away from home against us, but only 3 runs at home. Let's go. Okay, 1 run there, 1 run there, and 1 run there. And if you look at the home games, there's 17 runs right there. There's 7 more. Is that 24? And there's 6 more for 30. There's no way that you can anecdotally take a snippet or a slice out of the big picture and say there's any evidence that we were cheating in 2019. The same would go for the Astros. If you look at the Astros here, 2-2, and then if you go to Washington, 7, 8, and 4. So in the 3 away games, we scored 19 runs, but in game 6 and 7, we only scored 4 runs. So there's no way, unless you have an anomaly. So you can say, okay, let's say whatever, Clayton Kershaw in this moment in time performed very well, or, just taking snippets out or slices. You always want to look at big picture. So when, for example, I tease Cody Bellinger about his playoff DNA, then I'm referring to his entire body of work in the playoffs. Or if I talk about Kershaw's playoff DNA, I'm talking about his entire body of work. But if you take a snippet and say, okay, Altuve did bad against the Yankees in 2017 in New York, that's a snippet. That's a snippet. So just because Altuve connected on one beautiful pitch, with just absolutely imperfect timing, there's more to it than that. There's more to it. It's part of the Yankees having 3 walks allowing a bloop single to Gurriel right at Aaron Judge's feet, about Aroldis Chapman pitching badly to Springer before Altuve. Sorry about pulling out the context without explaining every time. It's about Aroldis Chapman missing the first strike, missing the second strike, and laying two sliders in almost the exact same spot at the same speed and letting Altuve time it up. This is, anyway, my point is don't use anecdotal evidence. The home and away stats thing, when you look at small picture, just doesn't work. The only thing I saw that made any sense to me when it comes to the Astros cheating scandal was when you look at the big picture of 2017 home versus away stats the entire season to create their record. But the reason the Yankees lost is in 2017 in the ALCS is because they only scored, I believe, 3 runs in Houston in 4 games. That's the reason. Simple as that. In 2017 ALCS, and I didn't Google this, I'm not the Google king, is they only scored 3 runs in 4 games against the Astros in the World Series. Period. The reason that the Dodgers lost in the World Series is because Bellinger struck out 17 times. I believe in sports, if you have to say, I believe people choking is equally as powerful as people winning. And it's a good debate about which is more important. If you take the Super Bowl, I would say that the 49ers choking was just as important as the Chiefs winning. If not more, I would say the 49ers choked, but it's a very, very interesting and cool debate. But I would say that the Astros in the World Series of 2019 were about to be swept. We're about to be absolutely swept. And the Astros to take 3 games from the Washington Nationals shows a lot of resilience, but they ended up choking at the last second. So it was really, really odd. But the entire World Series, you don't ever hear anybody talk about it because there's just absolutely no evidence to support that there was anything going on with the Astros. But in 2019, you didn't hear an eek. Then after the year is over, you hear this story about the Astros cheating. And you could just see this witch hunt brewing and slowly growing and growing and growing. And all of a sudden, I was watching, it was interesting because I was watching Yankees Entertainment Sports Network that week a lot, more than I ever have before or after. And you could see the Yankees just looking for stories, hunting for stories. And I just keep it real on this channel. And whether people like it or not, it was just such an odd timing when that story came out about the buzzer. It was just like they were reaching and searching for something to blame their demise on. And every story has this perception of 2 sides. For me, the World Series was super boring. But for Nationals fans, it was probably thrilling the way that they eked out Game 1, about Soto hitting that massive shot, about Game 6, about Game 7, them turning it around with 8 outs left. For them, I'm sure it was very exciting. But from my perspective, it was super, super boring. And another thing I wanted to say, part 2, and then I am done, about Altuve not wearing a buzzer, is he wasn't wearing an undershirt as far as I could see. He was just wearing his jersey. And if you have a buzzer taped, you would definitely wear a compression t-shirt to hold that buzzer down so it doesn't slip. And so Altuve only was wearing a right-handed compression sleeve. They said the buzzer was kind of near his shoulder and chest. He was wearing a compression sleeve, which doesn't go all the way to the shoulder. It's a sleeve, just a sleeve. It's not around the shoulder. And second of all, it's still part of part 2, is he was just wearing a compression sleeve. And also, after that home run, they literally untucked his shirt, which would be the only security if that thing slipped out. And after they untucked his shirt after the home run, he was still running around being giddy and having fun. Anyway, hopefully you guys got this far in the video. I had a lot to say, a lot to rant about, and I appreciate you guys very much. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And once again, if you don't like my channel, I'm sorry. I'm not apologizing for me, but I'm just sorry you don't like my channel. Just please move on quietly. And I respect you, but just find a channel that you like more. But I have a lot of cool content to come. I have a lot to say. And I really appreciate you guys sharing time with me. Thank you. And anyway, more to come, and take care.